Hello, and welcome to the September 13th weekly JupyterLab call. Today, there's 14 of us on the line. We are starting late, but you would have no way of knowing that, YouTube, if I didn't just say that. So maybe we can fix it in post. We don't fix anything in post. How about, though, we get started? So we have an agenda page. It's in the chat. If you don't see it, let me paste it in again. Please sign in if you wish. If you don't wish, that's okay. And please add your name to the agenda if you would like to talk about something. And if there's a longer thing to discuss, please add it in that bottom section you see called additional discussion. But with all of that said, why don't we get started with the first person on the agenda today, and that is Andrew. Thanks.
Hey everyone, thank you very much. So I want to talk about CondaForge and receipts that we just loaded to CondaForge in terms of opening PR. We opened the PRs for adding Jupyter Scheduler to CondaForge. Here is a link in the chat. And for Jupyter AI, adding Jupyter AI to CondaForge by Jason. The scheduler is by me. Link for AI, I will also send in the chat. So I know that there are some contributors to CondaForge on the call, potentially. Nick, looking at you. So yeah, if you could take time and maybe look at them, give them an approval, that would be nice. Also, we had a question about versions, but I see Jason already put it onto the chat. So I will hand it over to him. That's my intention for like the next person. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Andrew. So yeah, we've been discussing in our team making our internal packages, or the packages we help to build, Jupyter AI and Jupyter Scheduler, available on CondaForge. Something that is a little bit quirky about these is that we actively maintain two major versions of it. This is our way of preserving JupyterLab 3 and JupyterLab 4 compatibility. We were concerned, though, when we were looking at the way to get a recipe into CondaForge. I'm not sure how to like update the dependencies for different major versions of the same package. And I'm wondering, is there a way, is there any precedent for maintaining multiple major versions of the same package in CondaForge? Or is this something that we'll just have to only publish the most recent major version on CondaForge? See, response from Mr. Grout: you can have two branches for a recipe. Each branch releases a single major version.
Yeah, so this is a pattern that's used several places. Essentially, your recipe has several different branches, and each branch tracks a major version, and then you can maintain two different recipes, essentially. Yes, thank you very much. JupyterLab itself has several different branches. Frederick, do you want to take the explanation away now?
Bot will only update main. Okay. Thank you. I'm taking notes in case I go silent for a while. I didn't mean for everyone to go silent.
Yeah, sorry. I was about to say that I'm not an expert on Conda recipe. Like usually Nick and Jason has done a far better job than me. But yeah, basically you need to deal with multiple branches. And as Nick said, unfortunately also the bot can only automatically bump the main branch. So you have to remember when you do a release on PyPy for a backported version that you need to go manually trigger an update on the backport branch for CondaForge.
Okay, and so when you say manually triggering updates, that's using like using what facility in CondaForge?
PRs. You just make PR.
Okay.
There's no bot for the old stuff.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, thanks, guys. This really helps.
Cool.
That's all I have.
Okay, great. I guess that Ian's Fred, you are up next.
Just a reminder, last week I created the vote for the JupyterLab Council members about the new policy for member rights. So the vote is up until next week, September 21st. We have already reached the majority, but I leave the vote open for the additional week, as a participation from council members is one of the criteria to be considered as an active member. So please vote if you haven't done yet. Abstain is it's a valid vote, so it just shows that you are active but don't have the time or the knowledge to take a final decision. So that was for information, and the other one is first, I want to thank Gabriel for the patience on that PR about the tab trap on the notebook, and I think it's time we move forward, because it's a very important step towards being able to navigate a notebook with the keyboard. There is an important discussion that resulted from that PR about keyboard shortcut capturing technique, but I think we should have that separate from the PR. And I was wanting to discuss today what's the status, what's the opinion from Mike and Gabriel mainly, I guess, and how can we help? How can I help? I've seen that the integration tests are quite red. So is there something to do there? Can I help on that side? Yeah, that's my question.
Hey. So I don't know about the test actually. I haven't looked at the tests in a while, so I can take a look at those. I don't know if Mike has an insight into those. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about with merging this PR is, I mean, I'm quite sure there's going to be bugs that come out of this. With once it like users start using it. I've identified like a few of them at the bottom of the PR description. But they are the kinds of bugs that I couldn't do it like in one giant PR like this. So, and they're kind of like, you know, I think some of them are they're bugs that result from like improvements to the UX. So for example, like, you know, the fact that someone can actually focus on like the entire cell was something they couldn't do before. And, you know, the JupyterLab app currently like loses the user's focus all the time, in all kinds of situations. Like if you open the command palette and then you close the command palette, you lose where the user's focus was in the app. So that's something that that's like one of the bugs that, you know, I found in testing this PR. Yeah, I guess like my concern is just about like, what if we decide in the next, you know, several months or something that we don't really like this interaction pattern or like the implementation, and we want to like, I don't know, change it. I mean, there's some pretty, it makes some pretty big changes to the UX, I think. And that's my only concern.
Okay.
Well, sorry, Fred, go ahead.
Mike was about to say something. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Mike. Yeah.
So I have two comments. My first comment is that, as pointed by Nick in the chat about feature flags, I think the changes in this pull request are very reasonable. These are substantial changes to the shortcuts model, etc. But I think we should aim to at least merge and release that in 4.1 alpha or beta and let users test that out with all the different extensions they might have and see how it goes. We might end up reverting that pull request if there are too many breakages, but I think it is worth giving it a go. And speaking of breakages, so one of my major concerns previously was that the change in the selectors was not leading to certain keystrokes not being captured by the outputs anymore. And that was fixed mostly, but we didn't test that well enough across different widgets, across different, for example, when there is a data grid, which is a canvas, in an output of a cell, how does it behave? And this kind of widgets and interactive outputs that come from different extensions might break with this pull request, and there's just so many of them to test. So I think that if we could, and that was my hope during this call, to have a binder for everyone to install their favorite extension, but unfortunately the binder is not building for that pull request. Yeah, maybe we can do some round of testing, and if the extensions are working well, I would encourage to release that in a pre-release.
So I guess a path forward could be to merge it in the main branch and do a release of a pre-release version so that people can more easily test widget in particular.
Yes, and we would only backport it if we are satisfied on the pre-release branch.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. So if you want, Gab, I can give a look this week at the test failures, and then we can iterate on the PR, and let's try to merge it by next Wednesday.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
My off the cuff reaction was, you said that's a substantial amount of changes, and like, yeah, it is, but they're not accidental changes, they're changes you wrote, right? So like, you should release the substantial changes and see if they're substantially good. So thank you for working on this. I know this one's been painful. Let's continue. Mike, you are up.
So there is an effort to bring inline completions to JupyterLab. We briefly talked about this. So inline completions is what, when you start typing, you get a ghost text which suggests that you can accept that completion or not. It's slightly less invasive than a completer widget, and it's frequently used by AI models as the preferred mode to present more than just a single token, but multiple lines of texts of code. And quite a few editors already implemented or are getting inline completion support. There is also a proposed API in the language server protocol for inline completions. My question is, what are people's thoughts on that? I think that's reasonable to include that in JupyterLab, but what are people's thoughts on how to implement it, and whether that would be a new package, whether there would be instances where you would like to disable that altogether, not only from user settings, but remove that package, or whether that could be just a plugin in the existing completer package, or even if you have more down to the code comments, there is some internal discussion in the linked issue about whether this should be a new completion provider or merge into the existing completion provider interface. So yeah, any thoughts, any comments?
What's your intuition here? Why would it be in a different package? Because is it because it's so different from other completion that it might be a whole separate thing, or just because that's a large code base, or like what's the motivation for it not just being another plugin exported by completer?
There isn't much of a case for not doing that. I would argue the opposite. I would argue that it should be in the same package so that the code base can interact. But in a certain sense, there is an apparent duplication of interfaces. The reason why we might want to keep them together is because it would make making small changes easier. Sometimes you want to show both the widget and the inline completion, and sometimes you want to suppress one or the other, depending on the user input and what are the heuristics saying. The only argument for moving that to the separate package would be that if certain distributions want to have one and not the other, and potentially reduce the amount of code that gets put over the wire.
Okay. Well, does anyone other than me have an opinion? I'd rather hear someone else's and then give mine.
I mean, if it's opt-in initially and you can try it, then I don't see a shortcoming.
I would just keep it in the same package. Fewer packages to release. Semantically, it belongs there. Logically, there's nothing that stops you from disabling it. The only downside is the one you said, where if you wanted just inline and not the other one, you'd get slightly smaller code, but that doesn't seem like a huge upside to me. That's just my intuition, though. Obviously, if you find a good reason to go another way, then I'm sure that supersedes any intuition, right?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hopefully I will be able to open a draft pull request to discuss the APIs in more detail soon. So my two other points are NBDime and JupyterLab Git support for JupyterLab 4, and I know that there is an NBDime pull request. Amazing work, friends, and it seems that it has been approved by 5 people already.
At least 4 people last I saw.
Yeah. So I don't know if the person for whom we are potentially waiting is on the call, but yeah, if there are any comments or any suggestions on how we can help moving these things forward, I would appreciate that.
So I did not yet merge it and not released it because so I got the right from Matthias a couple of days back. The only rights that are missing is from npm package, because only Vidar has the right on npm package for NBDime. And so I was waiting for this call, thinking that, okay, maybe Vidar will show up and I can ask him personally, but he's unfortunately not there. So I think I will move forward and merge the PR tomorrow. And yeah, the npm situation is a bit embarrassing because it's needed for JupyterLab Kit as we reuse the widget, and also as Florence has commented on JupyterLab Git, the idea also is to reuse the work done in NBDime about the div view and the merge view for the cell editor, to reuse that work to display div view and merge view of text file in the JupyterLab Git extension. As basically from the code mirror point of view is going to be the same code, but maybe this will requires some API adaptation of the NBDime. So that's where it's going to be a bit tougher without having a pre-release on NPM. So yeah, but we'll move forward, I guess, soon. But yeah, that's the main blocker for now is NPM. Right.
So I guess that's if we wanted to just release a pre-release, say alpha or beta, we could release that to PyPy and NPM. Wow, that's great timing.
It's
Yep.
not great timing. Come on, somebody had to pull the strings in the background.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, we were talking about how amazing it would be to have JupyterLab Git and NBDime support for JupyterLab 4.0 soon.
Yeah, I saw there was a lot of stuff happening when I was on vacation.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Pull request. Yeah, so I didn't follow completely the state of the PR. It was rebased, right? And was all the previous review comments addressed?
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah. And the main point are about styling UX differences that the collapse functionality has been removed, right? So this is either way, I think this is a major version release. And what I've been reading is that you want some alpha or beta release. Is that correct?
Yeah, we would like to do pre-release because in the JupyterLab Git extension, we use also the diff and merge view that were coming from CodeMirror 5, but now this is gone. And so it would be good if we can reuse what has been done for the cell editor in NBDime. So that's why the best path would be to do some pre-release of NBDime that we can use.
Work against, yeah. Yeah, so yes, I was thinking of reviewing this either this evening or on Friday. I see there's a bunch of people who already looked on it, but just give it the once over. Is there like are you guys on a deadline?
The final deadline that we have on our side is for JupyterLab Git, and it's mid of October. So we can wait up to Friday, I think. It's not too... And the other point is for release, it's about the NPM package. We need to increase the number of people that can manage the write on that package. So yeah,
the question there is, do we have a Jupyter org?
No, we have, yeah. So that's why I commented. If you want, there is two paths. Either you add additional maintainers, or I send you an invitation to join the Jupyter org, and then you move the package. It's up to you.
Because if this is a major version release anyway, that might be the most feasible way to do that. But yeah, there's two packages, right, that is published.
Yeah, knowing that you don't need to change the name of the package to join a NPM organization. That's something that's less known, but you don't need to scope your package name.
Oh, I see.
The organization. to be.
Yeah, then that's I would say then that's the no-brainer. We should also join the PyPI thing if Matthias didn't do that already. It's not PyPI orgs, right?
Yeah, it's not yet on the PyPI org. Matthias added me as personal
Yeah.
in the package. But yeah, I can look at adding also on Jupyter PyPI. I mean, I will need help from Afshin because I think few people have rights on the top Jupyter organization on PyPI. But
And I
okay.
think Matthias, I think as far as I read, added me so that or gave me more insights. No, I still cannot add people on the GitHub repository. There's still somebody else who would have to add like collaborators there. Or am I under? No, I'm just not signed in. I'm just not signed in. I have gotten signed out.
I can't help you with that.
Yeah, I would need to go get my two-factor authentication thing to do that. So maybe I can add now people to be time for at least giving merge rights. But yeah, did somebody check the new merge and diffuse on different JupyterLab themes, dark themes, etc.? The color still looks at least reasonably accessible.
I did not, so I cannot answer.
Yeah, because one of the changes there for the UX was that the colors were changing and the CSS was changing. So that's one of the things that I see wasn't explicitly commented upon in the PRs. That's something I made a note to myself to look at. So I will review that as well.
So Vidar, you should receive soon an invitation on Jupyter organization on NPM. And Mike, I saw that your invitation expired, so I renewed it.
Which one? For the
NPM organization.
Okay. But yeah, the collapse functionality I think is pretty important or used by GitHub. They're relying on it to keep like large sizes of diffs small, because if you have a very large diff, it becomes a little bit of a performance blocker. If you have extremely large notebooks, I don't know if there was any testing with large notebooks during any of the reviews. I see Mike is chatting. Yeah.
Yeah, I just tested the dark theme and it works in the div view. I haven't tested that in the merge view yet. When it comes to the performance, well, we are using new code mirror, so there might be some regressions, but it is supposed to be faster.
Yeah.
And I planned to do another go through the CSS styles to remove any rules which might be no longer needed, but I didn't want to hold this pull request from merging core potentially.
No. So yeah, so once this,
I believe this kind of performance improvements and styling improvement can be addressed.
Yeah, no. So
release.
having the PR merged and iterating on it with alphas are certainly the best way forward. It would be any what do you call it? API changes would be the only thing that matters. I think the main API change is that we're threading this editor factory through everywhere, and some change to like options things, right? So I can deal with that on the repo. But I will do review on that either later today or on Friday.
Thanks, Vidar.
Yeah. But yeah, I can tell something was going on because all the AWS and QuantStack people were piling onto the PR.
Yeah, in interest of full disclosure, I have some colleagues who are very interested in getting the JupyterLab Git extension working for JupyterLab 4. So if there's anything that we can do
Yeah,
to
yeah.
help
No,
out,
I get
please
it.
let us know.
No, so but I've only been looking at this PR, available to look at this PR for 2 days. So I think I'm doing pretty fine for time personally.
Yeah, thanks everyone for your help.
So speaking of JupyterLab Kit, I just wanted to say that out loud. If there is any way that we could accelerate that mid-October completion date, if there are any tasks which can be split up, if there are any things which need to be done in upstream dependencies, it will be possible for, I guess, multiple contributors to work on things. But if that's not the case, that's fine. And I'm also happy to help with the review once the JupyterLab Kit PR is ready.
Thanks, Mike. I get back to the issue of the migration then when NBDime is there and how we can split the work, like try to make subtasks so that people can pick up things they want to work on depending on how much time they have.
Okay, so last point from me is a point about a new point release. Basically, the pull requests about completer, which I'm waiting on for the final release of JupyterLab LSP, almost all there. There's a final pull request waiting for my review, and I'm going to approve it today if the testing goes well. So I'm just saying that I would really appreciate and help with a new release, unless someone already is planning to do that. Then, yeah, it will be good as well. Okay.
Cool.
I just added a point to the agenda.
Okay. Why don't you present your point then, Andrew?
Awesome. Thank you very much. So there is a Jupyter Media Strategy work group, and we just published a PR with Jupyter Media Strategy Charter. It's a Jupyter governance repo, and let me see, I posted it into the agenda and also in the chat now. So I know there are a lot of people who are interested in media strategy, so to speak, and in concrete like actions, right? Connected with, I don't know, X or Twitter, or just more clarity in the processes. So if you have any feedback on the charter, please use the link and provide it. Yep, thank you.
Cool. It looks like the additional discussion migrated upward, so it's no longer there. There are two public service announcements. One is, if your PR needs review, put the needs review label on it, please. If you're looking for PRs to review, look for ones that say needs review, please. And if you would like to host this call, you can see how difficult a job it is. Please sign up on the linked Team Compass issue. And oh, somebody's adding FYIs to the additional discussion. I'll ask whoever's typing it if they wish to speak it out loud or just want the link there.
It's me. It's just for information, for if there are people that are not following those kind of information. CZI has opened the yearly request for proposal. I think that's the term for supporting open source software. So yeah, I copy there the link with the process to apply. So you cannot apply personally, but any organization can apply for some money to maintain open source code that are critical for biomedical scientists. So yeah, Jupyter is usually one of the projects that apply for a grant. Yeah. Last year we tried to have a grant for documentation. We didn't go through. 2 years ago, I think it's already 2 years ago. Gabriel can confirm that there's been a grant from CZI for accessibility, and that's the kind of thing that can be funded by it. So if you want, don't hesitate to write a letter of intent or things like that. Yeah, that's not so often that it's possible to get money to maintain open source software.
Cool. Thanks for the announcement, Brett. We don't have anything else on the agenda or in additional discussion. Is there anything anyone would like to talk about before I stop the recording? Okay. Brace yourselves.